Hi, welcome to the Crypto Republic. Before we dive in, if you're serious about staying ahead in this once-in-a-lifetime financial shift, make sure you like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic. Listen closely, because what I'm about to share with you could be the single biggest turning point in XRP's history. Everyone's asking me, will an XRP ETF send prices soaring like we saw with Bitcoin, or is this just the hype that won't move the needle? Here's the truth. We are on the edge of a financial shockwave that very few people truly understand. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why future ETFs haven't moved XRP's price, but also why spot ETFs could unleash a supply shock so powerful it could rewrite the entire XRP story. This isn't theory. This is about mechanics, supply dynamics, and history repeating itself in finance. We've seen this movie before with gold, we've seen it with Bitcoin, and now XRP might be next. So let's break this down. Right now, XRP does have ETFs. The problem? They're future-based. Futures ETFs are like playing poker with chips instead of cash. You're betting on the outcome without ever touching the real money. These products track XRP's price through rolling contracts, but they never actually buy XRP tokens. That's why, despite hundreds of millions flowing into these ETFs, XRP's spot price hasn't budged. No, XRP is being removed from the market. No, supply is tightening. Now compare that to a spot ETF. That's like swapping poker chips for gold bars. The institution has to actually go out, purchase the XRP, and store it in custody. Every share they issue is backed by real XRP, which means fewer tokens available on exchanges. And that, my friends, is where the real story begins. But first, let's rewind back to 2004. The first gold ETFs launched. For centuries, gold was seen as money, as wealth, as security. But something changed when ETFs forced institutions to buy and hold the actual metal. The result? A historic bull run in gold prices. From under 500 a troy ounce, gold shot up to over 1900 a troy ounce in less than a decade. The ETF was the spark that ignited a new demand era. Fast forward to Bitcoin. Futures launched in 2017. What happened? A lot of speculation, but not much sustainable price growth. It wasn't until January 2024, when spot ETFs hit the U.S. markets, that we saw Bitcoin rocket from 47,000 to over 100,000 in a year. The same script is now being set for XRP. Futures are the warm-up act. Spot ETFs. That's the main event, my friends. Here's the piece nobody talks about. XRP's available supply and exchange is shrinking fast. Coinbase inventories, down almost 90% over the past few months. Other exchanges are in the same boat. What's left is a fraction of the total circulating supply. So imagine this. Large asset managers, BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, they get approval for their spot ETFs. They're required to buy XRP on the open market to back every share. At the same time, retail holders are reluctant to sell unless the price is much higher. This creates a classic supply shock. Think of it like oil embargo of 1973. Suddenly, the world realized supply was far tighter than anyone imagined, and prices spiked overnight. XRP could be setting up for a similar kind of shock, but in the digital form. But it's not just ETFs. Multiple dominoes are lining up at the same time. The SEC lawsuit resolution, regulatory clarity moves the biggest overhang, stablecoin RLUSD, Ripple's US dollar stablecoin creates new liquidity pipelines. CBDC pilots, countries from Peru to Brazil, are testing XRP ledger infrastructure. Partnerships, rumors of Ripple linking with banking giants and payment rails like R3, SBI, maybe even global tech firms. Individually, each of these is bullish. Together, they're a financial thunderstorm converging at once. We've seen similar convergences in history. Think of the late 1990s, internet booms, fiber optics, cheap computing, and the rise of the web didn't just appear separately, they collided. The result? The dot-com explosion. XRP could be about to experience its own version of that convergence. Let's zoom in on mechanics. Spot ETFs are created when authorized participants deposit XRP into a fund. In exchange, they issue ETF shares to market. If demand for those shares rise, more XRP must be bought on the open market. This is critical. Every $1 billion flown into ETFs means hundreds of millions of XRP must be locked up forever. And since XRP has smaller liquidity compared to Bitcoin or Ethereum, the price impact could be even sharper. We've seen this exact pattern before. With Bitcoin, inflows kept coming, but supply was limited. Institutions had no choice but to pay higher and higher prices. XRP is like a balloon being held underwater. The second those ETFs are approved, the release could be violent and vicious. So when could this happen? Current SEC deadline suggests October through November 2025 is a critical window. Multiple applications are lined up. Grayscale, WisdomTree, Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, and more. Betting markets already put approval odds at 90%. If approval aligns with Ripple's lawsuit resolution and major announcements, the timing could be explosive. Now, I'm not saying XRP hits $1,000 tomorrow. Not saying that. But if Bitcoin took a year to go from 47,000 to 100,000, XRP's smaller liquidity means it could move much faster and more dramatic. This could be the financial equivalent of Blockbuster versus Netflix. For years, Blockbuster ignored streaming until the shift was too late. Traditional finance may be ignoring XRP until ETFs force them to pay attention, and when they finally do, it could be a Netflix-style disruption. Here's the takeaway. Futures ETFs, noise, spot ETFs, that's the needle mover. Shrinking supply plus institutional demand equals a potential supply shock. Regulatory clarity, Ripple partnerships, and CBDCs pilots, you have what could be the perfect storm for XRP. This isn't just another crypto headline. This is financial history repeating itself. Gold had its ETF moment. Bitcoin had an ETF moment. And XRP's ETF Shockwave could be next. So ask yourself, when the floodgates open and trillions of institutional capital suddenly need a home, will you already be positioned, or will you be watching from the sidelines? This opened your eyes. Smash that like button. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Turn on notifications, and most importantly, subscribe to the Crypto Republic, bringing you the truth about XRP, global banking moves, and the wealth transfer already underway. Don't just watch history happen. Stay informed, stay ahead, stay in the Republic.